It's now official. Kyle Sherman has been named the lead colour analyst for the PBA on the CW shows and will therefore replace Randy Pedersen in that role. It was a move that had been rumoured. Nobody quite knew whether Randy was going to return, but now we know for sure that Kyle has taken on that role as the colour analyst. And it's a very interesting move, and I'll be discussing it in detail in this video. As we got closer and closer to the start of the 2026 PBA season, it became apparent that the PBA wanted to make some changes, notably Kimberly Pressler. They decided to move on from her, and it did raise a question about whether Randy would be returning or not. He had said that he had not heard anything from the CW network, so he had assumed that he would not be returning. However, it does seem as though he will be coming back for the CBS shows. I'm not sure if an official announcement has been made on that or not, but it does appear as though CBS Sports expressed strong interest in bringing Randy to the commentary booth for PBA shows on their network. But the decision to bring in Kyle to essentially replace Randy, certainly on the CW network shows, is a very interesting one, and it certainly signals the end of an era, or perhaps I should say the start of a new era, because if it is true that Randy will be returning for the CBS shows, well, then I guess you could say it's sort of the start of the end and they're beginning to phase in a new generation. This was always going to happen eventually. I mean, Randy has done a fantastic job on a tenure of nearly 25 years. And there is a reason he's been on there for so long. However, eventually there had to come a time when the PBA moved on. And I think by changing from Fox to new networks, this probably is the best time to start bringing in the new era. Kyle is obviously a very younger and current choice, and I think that will be key. He has a lot of experience and insights that he can bring in regards to what the players are going through week in, week out, because at the end of the day, he is there with them every week on the tour. So he is going to bring a very great insight there, and essentially will bring in the kind of insight that Randy brought in when he first joined. Back when he started, literally in the year 2000, when he really started in the commentary booth, he was still on tour. He still had a very, very good insight into what the players were going through. And it obviously worked really well. But obviously, Randy has not been on the tour now for some time. Yes, he knows exactly what it's like to be on the tour competing. However, it's obviously not the same as someone like Kyle, who is current, who is there now every week. So I think Kyle will definitely be able to bring a very good insight and also technical knowledge as well that perhaps Randy now lacks, simply because it's a different era. He is from a different era, and I just think that by bringing in someone current and younger, it's going to give something different. Now, that doesn't take anything away from what Randy did. He was a very popular choice. He was a very good commentator, and 25 years of service, he's brought a lot, and there is something to be said for continuity. But like I said, I think eventually the PBA always had to make a change and go into a bit of a new direction. I do hope that Randy continues on the CBS sports shows, because I think that would be quite a nice way to almost bring in the new phase, to bring in the new generation. It would be a shame to see him cast aside completely. Now, of course, the big question is whether Kyle will be able to fill the shoes that Randy has left, and it's an interesting question. I personally think he will do well. I think it's going to be unfair to compare the two, and all Kyle can do is try to be himself and try to bring something a little bit different, I guess, to the role. But I think he's a very good choice, because he's somebody that I think is very well liked in the sport, which has come from not only bowling on the tour, but of course the YouTube channel Brad and Kyle. So this is a move that makes sense for him. A few people might be asking, well, is he still going to bowl on the PBA tour? Well, according to his social media pages, yes, he is. He will still be bowling on the tour full time. So the next question is, well, what happens if he makes a show? Well, the same thing that happened when Nelson Burton Jr. and Randy Pedersen made shows, another pro will step in. It's something we've seen happen many times before, so it's not really a huge issue if Kyle does make a show. And it will be interesting to see how he performs in terms of bowling on the tour, because when these players take on these kind of roles, it's funny how they then start to have almost a little bit of a revival in their careers. And it's just, I don't know, some sort of ironic thing where they become a commentator and then suddenly they start making shows. You know, we've seen that quite a few times, like I mentioned with somebody like Randy. I'm pretty sure it was also the same, if I remember, for Del Ballard Jr., who essentially had signed up to work on the telecast because he'd said, you know, that's it, my career is almost over, so there's basically no chance of me making shows. And then pretty much as soon as he started, you know, being on the telecasts, he actually ended up making the telecast himself. So I'm sure during his time as a colour analyst, Kyle will definitely have to step out of the booth to bowl himself. And if that's the case, then I'm sure we will get pros come in. Probably the two obvious choices would be someone like Norm Duke and Chris Barnes, two people that many actually wanted for this role, but I can see why the PBA went for the choice in Kyle. I think it is a good choice. I think it will be very interesting to see how he gets on. Obviously, there's a lot of pressure, big shoes to fill, but I think he can definitely do it and make his own mark. He's going to be teaming up alongside Rick Allen for the shows on CW. And like I said, as far as I'm aware, the commentary team for the CBS shows has not been announced yet, but I'm pretty sure from what I read, it seems as though Randy is lined up to continue there. But time will tell. Now, we won't have very long to find out how Kyle will fare as a colour analyst, as we've got the first PBA tournament of the season coming up very, very soon. That's the Players' Championship on Sunday, February the 22nd. And there was an interesting quote from Kyle which gives an insight into how he's going to be approaching this daunting task. I've always had a great relationship with Randy and I've had tremendous respect for him. For how long he did it, I can't even try to think of filling his shoes. Replacing a legend like Randy, the voice of the PBA for 25 years, you can't. Doing the best version of what I can do is all I can focus on. And I think that's extremely accurate, as I mentioned earlier. When you're replacing somebody like Randy, you can't try to replicate anything. You can't try to fill in their shoes. You can only bring what you can bring and focus on what you can do best. And I think Kyle does have a lot to bring. So it's certainly going to be a very different look for the PBA in 2026. No more Randy, at least for the CW shows. No more Kimberly, different networks, a different and much more intense schedule. And it's going to be very interesting to see how this all goes down with fans. I wish Kyle all the best of luck. It's a fantastic opportunity for him, and I really think he will do a great job. So what do you think about this move? Are you excited to see Kyle in the booth? Are you going to miss Randy? Or perhaps are there other players that you would like to see come in and fill in for commentary duties as well? Let me know all of your thoughts in the comment section below. Well, that's going to bring an end to this video. I hope you enjoyed this one, and if you have, then please consider hitting the subscribe button below so you don't miss any of my future videos. Well, that's going to do it from me for today, and as always, thank you, bowling fans, and see you all next time.